Hello, everybody, and welcome to ATL Falcons UK podcast. This is episode 85, and of course, the last proper roundup show of the season. I am joined by all of the boys, thankfully, today. It's not very often this season we've managed to have a full cast, so that's a massive bonus. And we also have a very special guest who I'm going to drop in right now in Miles Garrett, who you will all know from the socials, working for Fox 5 Sports, amongst other things. Miles, thank you for coming back on. How are you doing?
Doing well, fellas. Thanks for having me on. How y'all doing?
I mean, we could be a little bit better, but we're doing all right. We're doing okay. That's what we're here for, the group therapy session. So we'll get that underway. Chaps, how are you all doing? We've not done a show for a couple of weeks as we've had a few ups and downs. So how is everyone, Mark?
Yeah, I'm good. I think the last time we kind of spoke in detail, I was pretty convinced that from the Colts game onwards we were going to lose out. And apart from that kind of really weird result against the Colts, where we actually looked for some of the game like a competent outfit. I was right. I'm kind of ready, I guess, now to finally hit the reset button and to not be talking about the same things over and over again, I guess. I might be one of the few Falcons fans, I think, who, I appreciate how much effort went into Arthur getting rid of a lot of the old regime's problems and having to weather the storms of financial debauchery. I wish him well. I don't, and I think the positive that comes from it, is certainly that we've hit reset. That Arthur Blank fired at the right time this time instead of giving it another year, which I think was absolutely the right thing to do. On a personal level, I'm very, very sore this week because UK American football training started this week, so I got beaten up this week pretty good. So I think that might be down to old age more than anything. But apart from that, I'm ready to talk some head coach and talk some draft.
Absolutely, mate. Spot on. Liam, how have you been?
Yeah, I mean, I'd maybe say relieved at this point, I guess, in terms of I don't have to go through that week to week anymore for a little while.
That's very true.
It was getting painful, wasn't it, with the inconsistency? So, I mean, obviously I'm not too surprised about the news on Smith. Obviously want him to do well, but it just wasn't really happening. I guess we just got to sort of start again, which is kind of frustrating because, you don't want to keep starting again because that's not good signs. But, hopefully this time we'll have a bit more luck on our side. We'll get somebody who can guide us in the right direction, build a team from here. But sadly, I think we're probably at the start of a little mini project, no matter what we do.
Okay, so, interesting take.
We could just go from 0 to 100 maybe. Potentially, obviously, with the division we're in, that's what gives us more of a chance of doing that. But I'm not convinced that we'll maybe have an instant success. I guess obviously it's going to really come down to what we do at the QB position. Is probably going to tip it one way or the other, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And last but absolutely not least, Cal, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Yeah, fine. Like both of the others, sort of glad it's over. I'll be just enjoying the playoff football from now on. Shame we're not in it, but I'm sure one day me and Danny will see a playoff game, maybe.
It's coming.
5 years, hopefully.
I'm sceptical at this point.
But yeah, it is what it is. Obviously, it's the right time for him to go. But we move and then we'll see what happens in the off season. It's probably another exciting off season. Well, exciting, slightly unusual again. Like a lot's going to be happening, which always seems to happen with us at the moment, but you've got to take it from there and we'll see what happens.
It is what it is. So, in terms of reviewing the season just gone, that was it. I'm doing no more. It's done. It's gone. There's nothing else we can cover. If anything dips back into it, perfect. But ideally, there's nothing we can do about it now. At least we can watch the playoffs stress-free and just root for. I don't know who you're all rooting for. I was on the show mid-season saying it's clearly for the Ravens, and I'm sticking to that right now. So I think I'm all good at the minute. But yeah, so let's dip into the head coach scenario at the moment in time, and I think that'll naturally lead us into draft or free agency ideas and things like that. Our friends over at the Falcoholic have been keeping a very nice list on their website of the requested interviews, just so it's easier to keep up with. So I'm going to skim through them and then just see where you're all sitting with your feelings about who and what. So we've got Anthony Weaver from the Ravens. We've got Aaron Glenn from the Lions, the defensive coordinator. We've got Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator from the Lions. We've got Steve Wilkes from the 49ers, defensive coordinator. We've got Brian Callen from the Bengals, offensive coordinator. We've got Raheem Morris, which we all know very well, Rams defensive coordinator at the moment. And we have Bobby Slowick from Texans. I think that's it, unless I've missed someone. But I'm just gonna open it up to the table. So, Miles, I know you'll have a different perception on all of this to us because you've got a little bit of insider knowledge, I'd imagine. But how are you feeling about the recruitment process? Are you leaning to anyone, or are you just seeing how it pans out?
So the good thing that the Falcons have right now, situation-wise, is this has got to be the best free agent or potential free agent class of head coaches that we've seen in years. So it's a great time to be picking a new head coach for the Falcons, albeit, some unfortunate circumstances for Arthur Smith. But again, the names you listed are the ones that they have scheduled interviews with. Of course, there's the chance that other guys could be brought into that, like guys like Mike Vrabel and, of course, the big name Bill Belichick. So based on what I have heard and the information we've been given and the reports we've received,
Oh, no.
Oh,
We've
you've
lost
got to
him.
be joking.
We've lost him.
Oh, my
God.
Lord.
Hold up.
Like a vital.
Wow.
Yeah,
What a great time to lose me there.
That is
the information I have received. And then that was it.
I would say that Bill Belichick right now is their top target, based on what I've read and the reports that Adam Schefter's put out, Josina Anderson, ESPN, some folks around the Falcons building. That is who I would assume is their top guy. Now, again, nothing is officially confirmed, but based on that information, I would say that Belichick is their top guy. Arthur Blank, 81 years old, not getting any younger. They mentioned previous head coaching experience quite a bit in their press conference. Bill Belichick fits that mold. I know Arthur Blank wants to get that Super Bowl fast, and what better way to do that than the winningest head coach, or about to be the winningest head coach in NFL history. So, there's arguments about Bill Belichick, whether or not, he's more of a product of Tom Brady or not. His record without Tom Brady isn't that great. I think that's been widely known now at this point. But again, you can't deny his overall track record of wins and Super Bowl titles, whether that is Tom Brady's fault or not. So all that being considered, I would say at this point on this date that I would say Belichick is the betting favorite. But outside of that, there's a lot of options that they can consider right now. Ben Johnson definitely seems to be like the hottest coordinator candidate that is out there right now. And I know that they have scheduled an interview with him. Right behind him, Bobby Slowick, another guy who I would not be surprised gets a head coaching job this offseason, whether that's with Atlanta or somebody else. So I do think it's going to come down to those candidates, though, like whether it's Bill Belichick, Ben Johnson, Slowick. I do think those are the guys mainly they're going to look at. I don't think Raheem Morris is a guy that they're going to actually bring in just because he was there before. It was an interim tag. Granted, the team wasn't as good, the cap hell structure and the end of the Quinn Dimitrov era, but I just don't think that they're going to bring him in officially like that. Aaron Glenn does have a connection with Terry Fontenot, so that could be an influence there. But again, just circling back, I do think that Belichick is their top guy right now.
Well, that leads me on perfectly to Mark then, because I don't know how many people watching live have seen Mark's tweet today with, well, he intended to put no with many, many letters, but he didn't have the opportunity to do so because there's a character limit on Twitter. So go on, Mark. Give us your thoughts and feelings about that one.
Listen, you can't argue with what the dude's done. You can't argue with his record without Brady. And it's an argument I'll continue to make. For me, he doesn't work well with rookie quarterbacks. That's quite obvious. So, he's done. I mean, I'm not saying Matt Jones is very good because I didn't think he was very good to start off with. But with all due respect, if anything, I would say he's made him worse. And the Patriots have been, and I've got friends, well, acquaintances. They're not proper friends because they're Patriots, but I've got friends who are Patriots fans who are just aghast at what they have become. His coaching choices, the only real thing that we've seen under the Patriots this season is they're awful offensively, but they're good defensively. Well, guys, that's pretty much exactly what we're coming from. So please, excuse me that I don't really feel, I guess, enamored by the fact that we're going to get somebody who, and listen, I get the win now thing. If Arthur Blank's in his 80s, he wants to win quick. Cool. I get it. I do. But
yeah,
I really don't think it's the way to go. Ben Johnson was my first choice. I was a little bit gutted not to see Todd Monken on the OC of the Ravens. I think with a good young mobile quarterback, an OC like that would work really, really well, especially when you see how well Lamar's done this season. So I'm hoping that these are early reports from Sheft that are maybe a little bit hopeful, I guess, is probably the best way I can describe it. I'm not really too interested in Vrabel. I think he's done a good enough job at the Titans, but I get that they maybe want experience, but with all due respect, I would rather you go throw some money at Pete Carroll than Bill Belichick, personally. Because I think, if anything, Pete Carroll's shown that he can do different things with different quarterbacks, and I don't think that Belichick's shown that. And it's, quite frankly, making my blood curdle.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit over dramatic, but that's kind of how I'm feeling about that right now.
That's more than fair. Just going to quickly jump to the comments before we move on to the other boys. Paul, thank you for joining us like every single week. This was semi my thinking. I feel like he's had such attention now that will he have the same drive and passion? I don't know the man personally, so I can't actually speak for him, but I'd be inclined to say probably not quite as much fire as when he started. So I'm pretty much on that boat. And who else?
Just while you're looking through the comments, Danny, just one thing that I wanted to say as well, which just jumped into my head, was like with the best will in the world, like in terms of kind of trying to build the franchise and really kind of do something with what we have. One thing that Bill's always been passionate about is he picks the players. I always remember that COVID draft where there had to be a camera on him, and he just got up, and at one point the camera was pointing at his dog at his kitchen table. And we all know that Rich Mackay is kind of the guy who is Arthur Blank's second in command, and Terry Fontenot is football personnel. That's how the Falcons are set up as far as we are all aware. So what I don't understand is, why would Bill come here if we've already got a GM whose sole purpose is that recruitment, personnel kind of role? Because I don't see why Bill would want to relinquish that and just go to coaching. All the noise about him leaving New England up until now has been about he wanted like the Chargers because he could be the head coach and the GM. And again, I like, whereas I appreciate that we may be like the kind of the top target. I think we're the top target because actually we've got a much more dynamic and more complete roster than the other franchises looking at head coaches.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did get shot down for saying that on Twitter, though. I said I thought we were the top pick, and then with the Chargers, and then the Commanders. But apparently, I'm talking rubbish. But we will see. Cal, are you leaning towards anyone in particular at the moment in time?
Honestly, no. Like, I don't know enough about the other coordinators, like watching the whole of NFL. But the guy, the offensive coach for Lions, is probably what I've seen most of, really. And everyone, as soon as you do mention his name, fans sort of pick up and they get a bit more excited, I'd say.
He's the hot shot at the minute, isn't he? He's the fans' favourite, I think, on social media.
But going back to one of them comments saying they want the head coach to not do the offensive plays, it'd be very hard to get someone in like that who then doesn't do the offensive calls. So I think that's the other thing. Like, I'm pretty sure if he came in, he'll want to do the offensive calls as well. So, but it doesn't mean just because it didn't work this time, it won't work next time. So,
well, Bill's always had no say in the DC, hasn't he? So, to my knowledge, I think certainly in that kind of great sort of, well, it's a great Patriots era because that makes me shudder as well. But when he had Josh McDaniels and Patricia, like, I mean, he's always had positional coordinators. So I think that should. I'd like to think that did happen, then we would have an OC in the DC. Yeah,
no, it makes perfect sense. Liam, who are you rooting for at the moment in time? I know we've had this chat earlier on before names came out, and you looked at one of our own.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think I'd be picking like Raheem Morris as a top target. I just think he's probably somebody that maybe could do a job somewhere, and maybe not something that we would look at. But I think he does pretty well with defenses, and I think he could. I think somebody probably deserves sort of another bite of the cherry. I think for me, I'm going with the old winning guy. Nick Saban.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow, you threw me off then. I was going to say, well, somebody said it.
No, I don't think he's coming out of retirement for a second go at NFL coaching either.
No.
Although last time he did that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I think really, I would imagine that. I mean, I guess I was going to say that we should be going after this sort of like offensive mind and things that everybody sort of wants, which I kind of get with your point, Ben Johnson, but also I guess in theory, Arthur Smith was also that when we got him. He was an offensive coordinator. He had creative plays, his tight ends, all that jazz. Didn't work out in the end, so we could end up with another one of them. Not saying that really. I think Ben Johnson was sort of more impactful and effective than probably Arthur Smith was, but. We have tried it before, so I can see why people lean towards experience, but I don't think Bill Belichick's really the type of experience that I'd be wanting to sort of get. I think he's probably a little bit old school. He's just a little bit. I don't want to say past it, because he's still, he's obviously knows his stuff, and that's clear. But I think maybe the game has moved on a little faster than he has.
Fair enough.
That's what I sort of judge. I think there's a bit more of a modern day style and approach to the NFL now, and I don't think he's quite there with it, certainly from an offensive point of view. I know he didn't have a lot to work with in the Patriots all over that offense, but I think they they looked like a team with players that just didn't know what they were doing. They lacked strategy and direction and things like that. Like, not just that they weren't very good, they lacked everything else as well. They lacked like belief and things like that, which you'd think that somebody like Bill Belichick would give. But he wasn't. So yeah, I would lean towards one of the sort of the coordinator roles that are out there with some of the guys that are impressing across the league. Actually, Bob Johnson, I think, are probably two guys that I will lean towards. I mean, if we did get Belichick, it'd be interested to see what he can do with the team, but he wouldn't be somebody that I would want to take a punt on. I know it sounds strange saying that Bill Belichick is a punt, but I think at this point he is.
Yeah, probably not far off. Someone else that's been touted, I'll jump over to Miles for this one because he'll have what we need probably. From the fans' perspective, Nielsen's always had a little bit of a shout throughout the season with the defense performing pretty well. Do you reckon there's any scope for that or anything in the locker room that would indicate that we'd lean towards that at such an early stage?
Leaning towards Ryan Nielsen as head coach, meaning? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I certainly think that he'll get an interview. Do I think he'll be the guy? I don't. But would not be surprised if he is seriously considered to be staying as defensive coordinator for whoever is brought in. He's very well respected in that locker room. The defensive players love him, and the results speak for themselves. It's the best defense we saw for the Falcons in almost 20 years. So I think that was a bit, and you also have to consider the fact that Grady Jarrett was out. They didn't have a true pass rusher. So all those things considered, I think the defense could have been even better. But as far as the head coach is concerned, I don't think that they'll hire him. Again, will they consider him and maybe give him an interview? Sure. But I don't think that he will actually be the guy. I will say, though, we've been talking about who I think they'll hire. If I had to pick who they would hire, I do think, and I don't think it's been discussed so far because he hasn't been interviewed yet, is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a personal favorite for me just because of his track record. I mean,
it's almost like magic. Every single time he's about to make his point.
So he did that going to Michigan. So I think his track record has proven that he can make an immediate impact with whatever roster he has. Now, do I think he'll come to Atlanta and do I think he'll be considered? I don't. I think that the Chargers seem like a easy landing spot for him just because of the quarterback situation, having Justin Herbert already there. But I do wish that they'd give him an interview, but I just don't think they will.
Yeah, I think.
Go on, Mark. You looked in deep thought then, because or Liam, because it is one we've covered in previous shows, isn't it?
I guess I did a little bit of research. Jim Harbaugh's on a astronomical amount of money at Michigan, and certainly when compared to kind of roughly what Arthur was getting as HC in Atlanta, it was quite a significant difference. Obviously, Michigan have just won the Natty as well, so I certainly wouldn't be against it. I think he's a great coach, and as alluded to, experienced. Experience with young guys. We've got quite a young team, so I'm not against it. I would just say that I think that decision would potentially be more financial, and I guess to Miles's point, one thing the Chargers have always been known for is, certainly they tend to just opt for the cheapest option. They didn't even want their own stadium; they just decided to share with the Rams. So it's I would be surprised, despite the quarterback situation, which is obviously better than ours at the moment. But I would be surprised if the Chargers felt like a right landing spot for him, because I can't see the Chargers paying that kind of money either. But it's just again shooting from the hip. But I agree with Miles. If that were certainly something that we approached, I'd be a big fan of it.
He's somebody that I certainly would consider. I mean, like I say, obviously had a very good record in college. He had a very good record in the NFL, also when he was there. So, you'd certainly consider him. I think you've got two different sort of angles to consider. I think with him coming in is one, although the quarterback situation isn't great in Atlanta at the minute, obviously it's a bit unsure. His MO, certainly in Michigan for the last 5 years or whatever, is just they run the ball down people's neck relentlessly. So I would say that he's really just had an immense running game with a quarterback that was solid, like for most of it. Like they never really had I can't remember the last time they had a great quarterback under him. So they ran the ball when we kind of run the ball. We've got weapons at running back. That's kind of our strength at the minute. Is probably that game. So maybe look at that and go, well, I know how to run the ball. I'm going to go and be the team who runs the ball. And on top of that, I mean, it's probably a bit of a controversial one. But if he was in charge and had some sort of influence around the draft, he might go and get his guy JJ McCarthy and bring him with him. And he's a bit of a reach at that position, but he's just won a national championship with him, so he might think, "Oh, I'm going to do another one."
Yes, Stetson Bennett won a lot of championships as well, but
he did. But he did a good job. But I mean,
I'm going to annoy all the Bulldogs watching, but like with all due respect, again, it's I'd be very surprised if JJ McCarthy goes.
Yeah, I mean, McCarthy's, I think, from a consensus. But
I get your point.
He's a lot more highly rated than Bennett was coming out of college. Like yeah. So, but I personally, I think it would be a reach. But if Jim Harbaugh came in, he's got a solid running game, brought his guy in, like those two scenarios that could be attractive to him. But I don't think he's going to come bring JJ McCarthy in. I can't see it happening. But
well, you've just invented in quite an interesting scenario there.
There's two things there that could attract him. He could bring his guy, and he's got a running game.
Well, that's true. So Danny, I'm conscious of the time that we keep Miles on for.
Absolutely.
Obviously, he's just got in and he wants to relax. So I'd quite like to just veer away from the head coaching discussion for a quick minute and just go and just pose this question to you, Miles, because I'm sure you probably imagined it was coming anyway. I think it obviously does depend on who lands as the head coach. But what are we doing with that number 8 pick, in your view?
That's the question, isn't it? I think when it comes to the 8th pick, it's going to be a quarterback, I think. I mean, whether it's a trade up, you stay put, I don't see a scenario where the Falcons don't come out of the first round without a quarterback. Based on what I have seen and the guys who are going to be available, because again, like you can go the free agent route. The Bears obviously haven't committed to Justin Fields yet. He certainly could be an option. But at that point, do you want to pay Justin Fields the kind of money that he's going to be owed once you make that trade?
Yeah.
The biggest draw for quarterbacks nowadays is that rookie deal, that you can get them and kind of build the team around, which the Falcons have been able to do now, finally, with that cap space that has been all freed up. So the draft option makes the most sense given the fact that it is such a quarterback heavy class. But all that being said, you're going to have to trade up to get one of the best prospects, because 8, you're in the Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix territory. And you very well may like those guys. Maybe they wow you at the combine or the pro days or whatever. Obviously, I know Michael Penix had some late season push to sort of make his case for the top 10. But I do think that if you want one of those elite guys, like I think the top 3, as in Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May, you're going to have to trade up, because all 3 of those teams picking in the top 3 are going to want a quarterback, whether it's Chicago picking a quarterback or trading out of that spot, which I'm leaning towards. I think that's what they're going to do. I do think they're going to stick with Justin. But the Commanders, the Patriots, both of those teams are going to be looking for quarterbacks. So, you're going to have to trade up, and the Falcons, have a history of doing that. They did it for Michael Vick. They did it for Steve Bartkowski. They've done it plenty of times to not warrant this move as being unprecedented. And it is the most pressing need for this team. We've been saying it for a while now. They're a quarterback away. Granted, there are some things you want to fix, get a better pass rush, maybe get another cornerback opposite AJ Terrell. Jeff Okudah wasn't quite what we expected him to be, dealing with some more injuries. Clark Phillips obviously had a very promising rookie year, but I'd say those are your biggest deficiencies per se. Maybe you want a wide receiver 2, but you've got your wide receiver 1. So, you discount that as being a option in the first round. So, to me, it's obvious, you got to get that position taken care of in order to be relevant or compete at this point, because you haven't been able to find it since Matt Ryan left.
So I'm interested. I think there's 2 viable trades. I think at this point there's a trade up to 1, which is going to cost a lot, because I think Chicago know that they can name the price. I think a trade up at 3 is possible with Arizona, I think, as well. I think that's equally as likely, and maybe, wouldn't cost you as much. Just out of boyish interest, what would you do and who would you take?
Well, my theory is if you're trading up to the top 3, you might as well trade up to number 1, because I feel like all 3 of those options are, again, maybe it's different. Maybe if you look at some of those other teams and, I won't be at the table for those deals, so I don't know what kind of demands they'll be making. But to me, if you're moving from 8 to go to try to get the quarterback you want, I feel like the price range won't be that drastically different, knowing what the prospects are. Now, if a guy like Jaden Daniels starts to slip a little bit, maybe that's who you go after. But I still think that Jaden has potential to not leave, go lower than 3 or 4 or 5, really.
Correct.
So, I feel like it's a foregone conclusion that Drake May and Caleb Williams will go 1 and 2. So like I said, at that point, I just traded number 1. Get who you really want to get.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep pushing you on this. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you trade up number 1. So, which one of those 2 do you take?
Well, if you're trading up to 1, I think you get Caleb Williams, right? I mean, I think he's the number 1. Now, I will say I like Drake May a lot. I really do like Drake May. I just think that the talent and the work on the field, Caleb Williams has shown he's sort of that game changer per se. Like he makes those ad libs. He's very Patrick, and it's hard to use that word so much, Patrick Mahomes, but you see the way he plays, it's very Mahomes-esque, just creating things out of nothing, throwing across his body, that type of thing. He's got the build, he's got chemistry with Drake London. Those are things that you should consider when trying to make up that move. Now, again, like I said, I do like Drake May, and I do like Jaden Daniels' game quite a bit, but if I had to pick between the 3 and I had my choice, I'd take Caleb Williams.
You wouldn't be sorry. I'll stop this grilling, but I've got one more question.
No, shoot, go for it.
So, you wouldn't be worried about maybe some of the personality?
I don't think so, especially at the NFL level. I'm not really too worried about it, because at that level, you've got everybody's kind of in the same boat at that point. I know, granted, it is a quarterback, and that's a position that, maybe comes with a little bit of ego. But yeah, I'm not too worried. Like, everything I saw out of Caleb Williams this year didn't scream red flag to me. Like, I've seen quarterbacks that, shout red flags, like the Johnny Manziels of the world, or, some of these other guys that you're like, okay, like, I don't know, like maybe there's something there that, I'm not too concerned. Like, the things I saw from Caleb Williams just seemed kind of minuscule. So I don't know, maybe it does become a problem, and I look like a donkey here, but as far as concerns about
we
Caleb
do that
Williams,
every week. You're all good.
Exactly. As far as his character is concerned, I'm not too worried about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
I was going to say the Patriots are at 3, aren't they? So so they would end up like, because I think the Arizona thing would make sort of sense at being doable. I think position wise now that's going to cause, if somebody jumps to 1, that's 1, 2, 3, isn't it, with the quarterbacks? So it's like jump to 1 or nothing, almost. I think potentially if somebody trades with Chicago, obviously if they trade with Chicago, they're trading for a quarterback, aren't they? So Yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, I would agree with Miles on the personality sort of thing, the character issues. I've kind of, in the past, I've sort of took that into account with rookies and things, and thought, there's issues like that could go against them. But I just keep thinking about people like Micah Parsons, who obviously he was pretty much a lock at top 5 until all these character things came out about some of his earlier days, and he dropped down at the top 10 and went 12, whatever he did over after all. And you'd look at that and go, I'd have took those character issues for that pass rush.
Yeah.
So,
Very good point.
So yeah, I think I don't think it seems to be like every rookie, or at least several rookies a year, have got some character concerns that appear between like the end of the season and the draft, don't they? And people dig out things from when they're like 6 years old and all sorts of stuff. So I think college, you're young, you're in an environment with other young people. Things do happen. I think in a professional NFL environment with more professional coaching staff, all that sort of stuff, I think you're more likely to sort of be settled down if you're that type of person. So I wouldn't worry about anything like that. And when you're the quarterback, you're the constant under the limelight. So if you're going to start acting up, you're not going to last very long. So settle down and do your job, I think.
That's fair enough. I was just going to circle back to Miles for one last question, so then he can put his feet up and enjoy the night. Based on what you've just said, we're assuming that you're starting your rookie quarterback, because if you're picking that highly, he's your number 1. What are you doing with the number 2 spot? Are you keeping Ridder? Are you keeping Heineke? Are you bringing someone else in? What's your route if you're bringing in the number 1 pick?
I think that you hold on to Dez and you cut Heineke just because of the contract and how expensive Taylor is, and you still have Dez on his rookie deal. And I'm going to be honest, I mean, he's obviously not, I think he's proven that he's not good enough to be a starting quarterback for the Falcons, but I don't mind Desmond Ridder as a backup option. I think he has shown enough to where you can trust him and to come in for spot duty, like he did lead some comebacks. He had some wins. Now, would I bring in someone to compete with him? Sure. I'd bring in, a cheap free agent option that you could use to maybe go up against him. But if you have your starting quarterback figured out, that'll figure it out on itself. But having Dez as a backup, I don't think is a horrendous option. I just bring in a free agent to compete with him.
It's fair enough.
That is as expensive as Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Go on, Mark, unless you were going to.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, we watched Dez this year, and it really kind of broke my heart a little bit that just how much abuse the kid got, because every time he stood on that podium, he went out, even after the last game when Arthur wasn't even man enough to go out and face the media, he still went out, he took responsibility. And, I just love the guy that he is, and obviously how much he cares. And, we seen Taylor Heineke, who playing in this offense, and he'd always kind of been known as he was quite a solid, protects the football, he doesn't make a load of mistakes, and he was doing the same things that Ridder was doing. He was throwing INTs and 3 and outs all over the place. And I've said it a million times on the show, I think it was down to that really, really feckless scheme that they were in, and I would much rather keep Dez around, not so that he can compete for a starter, but so that we've got a really, really competent backup that I think he can be. So I would agree with Miles on that. You keep Dez, and then you find or you just have Logan Woodside, or I'm sure that was QB3's name, to sit behind him. I don't know, but that feels like the better option, and as Mel said, it's cheap, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. We've just got out of cap hell over the last few years, so let's not dig that hole all over again. We'll wait till we have a heavy quarterback contract for that one at least.
Let's Terry Cook.
There we go. Let's Terry Cook. Miles, just so you can go and enjoy your night, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on, and always thank you for your insight.
Thanks, Miles.
try and chat with you during the off season when we know a little bit more about what's going on, maybe a little bit closer to the draft or something like that, when you have all the gossip for us and we're just sat here speculating instead. But yeah, thank you very much, and enjoy your evening.
Absolutely, guys.
Always
a pleasure talking ball with y'all. Happy to come on anytime. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Miles.
very much, mate. Catch you soon. Bye.
Bye, mate.
Didn't want to keep him all night. He's just had a long day at work.
And he stayed on longer than he said he was going to.
Exactly. I felt guilty.
It's
a bad one.
Too much noise about Bill Belichick. It's too much.
There is. Before we circle back to that, Cal, have you got a quarterback preference at the minute? Are you rookie or are you veteran, or where you're leaning? Who you're leaning with?
I think it is. I think like Miles made a good point with like because I was like, if Chicago wanting to get rid of Fields, I'd probably be up for it. But then the money side of it, because he's due his contract.
Yeah.
But it's one of them where we need a quarterback, and we know we're gonna. I don't think there's other free agents that I'd want to go for. So and like, if you're gonna trade up, what's the difference between like one and to be fair, like you said, now it's like one. It's just one in it now. Because if you're looking at Washington's 2, and then all the Patrick, the Pates are 2, and then Washington's 3, all them are going quarterback. So it is one, and then if we need it, you've got to do it, and every team does it every so often. Does it always work out? Absolutely not. But could it? Yeah. So and let's be honest. The excitement in the fan base would be. I don't think you'll get many people moaning at it. So
no, not at all. Not at all.
I think like that's the other thing, that we're not a million miles away from like competing either. That's a few years ago we was like, but now if you look at the defense, you get a few extra bodies on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
The offense, like you said, it just needs to click. Like, they're not bad players. Like, the O-line's pretty good, to be fair.
But
you've got the tight end. I think Pitts. Like, Pitts is obviously one of them where he's obviously staying for this year. But is his deal up this year?
Pitts.
No, it's a 5th-year option.
Oh, right.
It's AJ who needs paying this year.
Yeah, we've got to decide. Pitts' 5th-year option this year, I think, haven't we?
Yeah.
Which you're obviously going to take, and again, you know, any head coach that comes in, this is why I keep kind of going round on that side of we need an offensive head coach.
Yeah.
You know, and we need somebody who are going to get the best out of this, you know, plethora of weaponry that we've got, because we absolutely haven't made the most of them. And, you know, I think, listen, I'm now that Miles has kind of said it, makes sense. You know, if you're going to go, you know, trade up to 3 or 4 or whatever it is, you might as well trade up to 1.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the bidding war that's going to be present
heavy
to get to number 1. Because I think, as they mentioned, I think outside of those 3, and Penix is probably my preference at the minute, but you know, probably by the draft, my mind will have changed. So, you know what I'm like, I get very emotional towards the draft. So, I'm still kind of like, if Jane Daniels dropped to 4, you know, could you maybe do something? But knowing that Chicago are probably going to trade that pick to somebody.
Yeah.
It's
well, yeah, I mean, realistically, they're going to take a quarterback or trade it for somebody who takes a quarterback, aren't they? Like, that's guaranteed. So, and there's no way Washington and New England are passing out a quarterback. So,
no.
I can't see a way that it's not 1, 2, 3 with the quarterbacks. I just can't see it's possible.
Little bit of a surprise to me this week around the head coach discussion. Eric Bieniemy's not on that list, and I expected him to be.
Yeah, he's on like the odds list, isn't he? But he's not on the interview request thing, is he, at the moment?
I'm just wondering whether it's just timing and it's just not come out yet. But you would think that they'd be asking the primary targets first. It would be
they might do a boatload more interviews. I don't know. I was just surprised.
As obvious as the shout is, it was the one that I went for when we were discussing it a few weeks back. It just seemed like
I'm not as high on it as I am Ben Johnson. Do you know what I mean? But
no, I agree.
Surprised.
They can't do interviews until after the playoffs anyway. Is that like the rule? Like
if that team's in the playoffs, I mean, they could, I mean, Washington are obviously out, so you could interview the enemy tomorrow if you want.
Yeah,
but I feel like with him, he's not like he didn't. No one wanted him last time when we were going for head coaches, and there was quite a lot then. So that's the only red flag. It's like, well, why didn't anyone take him up? Because there's probably like 8 or 9 teams that needed head coaches, and he didn't get a job then. So it's like,
but yeah, I mean, Darren raises a good point in the chat. You know, he obviously doesn't interview well because he's had plenty of head coach interviews already. So
and one would say that in terms of his, where he could go, I think just if the team that he's already at, who've got a head coach vacancy.
That's a very good point.
Not interested. Then
forgot Riverboat Road just got sacked too.
So surely if he's in demand, his own team are going to consider him. So that might say a lot about it.
It's a great point. Yeah,
absolutely. Just to circle back to the name of the show, then, just a little bit, just so we're not hacking Miles' head. I didn't want to keep going around the same topic whilst he was here. Mark, we know your stance on Bill, and Carl, Liam, you've both kind of contributed a little bit. Should it happen, and the odds are saying that it might very well happen, what do you envisage the Falcons to look like? Like you said, Mark, logistically, format-wise, it doesn't really make that much sense with having Terry knocking about and having McKay there and everything. So I know we're always going to back whatever coach we bring in, but how hard will that be for you to accept?
I don't think for me it'd be that as hard. I wasn't in that situation from that year.
Falcons fans in the comments are going to say, what?
But no, completely get it from like everyone's point of view. I get it. I get sort of why Arthur Blank would go down that route. But like you said, I think if he comes in, I think everyone will back him. I think you've got to do that no matter who your coach is. But I don't know. I don't know if he'll. I don't really get it either, though. I sort of get it, but I don't know. It's quite a confusing one, like, because our team is ready-ish to go. Like, I'm not saying we're going to challenge for the Super Bowl next year, but our division is still pretty trash, and it's going to be pretty trash next year. So even whatever coach comes in, I'd still be expecting to be challenging for our division without a doubt.
I agree. I think that's the issue this time around. So Smith came in and we all said, he's got a few years yet before we start thinking about what's going on. The coach that comes in this time, I think the expectation's high quickly because you only need an average season and you win the division.
Especially if you go and get the number 1 QB.
That nails it. Yeah, that absolutely nails it.
And
go on, Mark.
And the problem that you're going to have is if he has an awful season, can't sack Bill Belichick after 1 season.
No, you can't. True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
Like,
so are you resigning yourself to at least a handful of years of his process or his culture or whatever you want to call it, regardless? Whereas if you bring another coach in and they bottle it, you can just go, well, it's just not good enough.
He wants to take over the franchise. He wants to be in control, doesn't he? Like he has been at the Patriots.
Yeah.
He won't.
Yeah.
I can't see how he'll get that here, but maybe Arthur Blank's like, fuck it, have what you want. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of them. I wouldn't be if he's named head coach, I'll back him like every time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It seems like a win now move, doesn't it? It seems like It seems like let's just get him, try and win it, and then burn the franchise down afterwards and just see how it goes, which I kind of understand in one way because he's tried. I think this isn't me, this is socials, but everybody's saying the amount of OCs and DCs we've tried and tested and tried and tested and never had any success, that why not just go, you know what, let's just hire a head coach and let's just give a head coach a go. I do understand that logic within reason.
But let's have it right. You know, Dan Quinn was considered. Dan Quinn got it so suitable.
Yeah.
You know, so like you go, oh, we've tried all these OCs and DCs or whatever. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. We haven't. Like we tried it with Dan Quinn. Yeah. And there's some other coaches in a bit further down, you know, history, like, you know, I mean, in between Mike Smith, etc. You know, we like every team does that. Like, but and I understand win now. I get that. Like, it was almost like what the Bucs did with Bruce Arians, right? And then they just went, right, there's you guys, there's Brady, it's all set up. Like, there's no secret sauce. And, you know, with the past 2 years in New England have been marvelous to watch because they've been awful.
And that's my concern.
And the only good thing that they've done is play defense. But we can already do that.
Yeah.
So what advantage are we getting here? So I do apologize for the Bucs fan in the chat, by the way. That's my mate. I really shouldn't have shared the pod.
I thought I got the comment up earlier. I thought, you know what? We're inclusive. We're inclusive.
Also, bringing Belichick in, is it win now? Does that make any difference? Because if you bring Ben Johnson in, is that if that's his name? Why can't he go on?
Well, he's a young guy.
Yeah, so he can go on to win straight away. There's no saying that Belichick's win now either. Like, anyone can come in.
Look, just look at what Ben Johnson's done with Jared Goff. Like, you know, not and when Goff was at the Rams, it was all believed he was a system quarterback, and I think to be fair, it's probably still fair to say that he still is, right? But the guy's made the Detroit Lions, right? Now, if we were having this conversation 3 years ago, you know, the Lions had been awful for years.
Yeah.
Until Dan Campbell and that regime turned up. And then they got Goff and everyone was like, oh, they've got rid of Stafford and they've got Jared Goff and he's been not doing very well at the Rams. And blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, that unit, even and they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, but they haven't got major pieces at wide receiver.
No.
You know, is Kyle Pitts better than Sam Laporta? Well, he should be. So, and Laporta looked awesome in that offense last year. So I think, like, and listen, you know, I'm not trying to convince anybody that they shouldn't want Belichick and they should want, but we should want, to Liam's point earlier on, right? And I think, and Liam, as much as sometimes you infuriate me, you hit the nail on the head once again, where you've got to have somebody that rides with the times in football. It's what Harbaugh's done in Baltimore. You know, like Harbaugh, been around the game for ages, older guy, but he knew running quarterback, I can change the game. I can make this kid into Mike Vick 2.0. And, you know, you've got to have a coach that wants to go and change things. And, you know, actually, when you think about it, and hindsight's 2020, right? But, you know, did Tennessee really change that much when Arthur Smith left? No. They just used Derrick Henry as a battering ram and they ran the ball down people's throats. All they did was they sold Mike Vrabel short by getting rid of A.J. Brown. So like, that's kind of why I'm not really interested in having Vrabel, truth be told. Like, because it doesn't, you know, it's not dynamic. We've got dynamic players.
Yeah.
That's the difference, right?
It is. Yeah. The only spanner I'd throw in the works, just because that's
throw it.
What I'm for.
Show me
throwing it. I want to quote it exactly, so I'm getting it up. It's Billy Boy's interview that he did in 2021 about how much he loves Kyle Pitts. So is that the man you want?
Sorry, did you say?
No, Bill Belichick.
Oh, good lord! Right, okay, yeah.
He's big, he's fast, he's got great hands and adjusts to the ball, makes tough catches, savvy route runner, and can get open. Very hard to match up against. I was reading through some of Atlanta's comments and you heard them comparing him to a cross between Tony Gonzalez and Julio Jones. I'd say that's about right, and that's what it looks like. This is one of the superstars of the NFL. Is he going to just come in and make him a unicorn again? Because if so, I will lean that way a little bit more than I would do.
I wonder what he thinks of him now.
I know.
Listen, I will. If it happens and he gets it firing, you're not going to hear me complain, right? But that's a big if. That's a big
absolutely.
If you'd been awful at your job for 2 years, just because you were good at it a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
I'm not being filled with excitement. And I mean, to that comment, which I appreciate, but with all due respect, Arthur Smith was supposed to be good at tight ends. And we ended up with Johnny Smith. We ended up with Johnny Smith getting more targets than Kyle Pitts half the time, who ironically was Arthur Smith's tight end in Tennessee 3 years ago. So you just go, I get it, but I want somebody that's gonna utilize what we've got.
Yeah,
that's what we should be hoping for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean,
you've seen loads of stuff in the comments, haven't you? Tomlin, Flores, like Tua had one, like everyone doubted Tua after playing for Flores in Miami.
Yeah,
he was almost a running joke on NFL social media.
Yeah,
2 years under Mike McCarthy, and he's like MVP candidacy. So do you see what I mean? It's like all these coaches that have done some stuff. We need somebody who can come in and do stuff with this insane amount of talent we've got.
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot of, like, everyone says, like, don't do the coordinator thing and do the experience thing, but it's more just about the person, isn't it? Like, it's nothing to do with where they're coming from and things like that and their experience. And because you could look at cases for both of them. You can look at cases where coordinators haven't worked, but then you can look at cases where they have, like obviously McVay's a prime example of it. They hired him after being like Redskins at the time, like Commanders coordinator for a year or two. I don't think they were even that good, as if they didn't like make the playoffs or anything when McVay was there. So they saw something in him and went for him anyway, and then he's obviously turned out to be a success for them. Like I say, even Dan Quinn was a success at times. I don't think it's necessarily like DeMeco Ryans at Houston.
Wow.
He's come in after 1 or 2 years coordinator, and he's come in and unlocked. Ryans has come in and unlocked an offense that didn't have that many weapons, and he was a defensive coordinator. So
Mike McDaniel went to Miami from San Francisco as an OC, I think, at the time or whatever. But he didn't call the plays.
Exactly.
So Dolphins hired this nerdy looking guy who didn't even have play calling experience. This guy's running like trick plays against some of the best teams.
Exactly.
Think outside the box, man. Belichick's the box.
Yeah,
let's think outside it, please.
And you've got to look at another, obviously, name out there, as we obviously that we all recognise, is like Shanahan. He was another one who came from that, like, he's an offensive mind. He's got all this creativity, which he did. As we know. And then people say, no, it won't work out. And he's done pretty well he's certainly got that team going. So I know he's got a lot of weapons and stuff, but that kind of, you can't put that against him. His plays and effectiveness with those players is amazing. So you can do it. There's just no doubt about that. You can do it. So I don't see like the experience or the where he's coming from and what role he's doing is the main thing. I think it's just getting the right guy, really.
Yeah.
Some of them guys that we spoke about on that list that of our potential candidates, if they all get head coaching jobs, some of them will probably be successful and some of them probably won't. But you kind of don't know who until you do it, really.
Yeah.
And to be honest,
people become head coaches because they get promoted at some point, right?
And there's way more to it, really, in the sense of, if we're saying that, you need a good head coach to do this, this, and this, which obviously, helps a lot. But if we're saying people like Ben Johnson have unlocked Jared Goff and that Francis flying and he's got into the playoffs, he's not even the head coach, he's the coordinator. So we've got to consider what our coordinator positions are going to be almost just as much as the head coach.
Yeah.
Like, if we're putting all these guys saying these are the guys that have made these teams great, then surely we need a position, somebody in our coordinator's positions who's also going to be great. It's almost just as important about as who we hire a head coach is who we get as defensive coordinator role, presuming we're going to get maybe an additional person to do that and not the head coach himself, whoever that is. So that's just as important, I think, if we're talking about how good these coordinators are, then surely we need a good coordinator. But it's going to be interesting. I think we're an attractive prospect in the market. We've got passionate fans. It's a great city. There's sort of the cap rooms there. Although the quarterback isn't there, some people might find that an attractive proposition in the sense that they've got the chance to sort of mold the offense into whatever they want it to be a little bit.
Yeah.
I think obviously they've got the opportunity to bring in but they'll be involved in that coordinator position, I'm sure. So I think it'll be good to see what we do. But where obviously there's a few other teams out there also going for the same guys. Like, I'm sure if I was to look at who the Commanders' top 5 targets are and stuff like that, they're probably the same top 5 targets as us. Right. Yeah. Somebody's getting somebody, but I do hope we sort of like stand out in the candidacy race, because I think I can't see anybody in that much of a better position than us.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's, rather than go around the houses on this discussion, because I think we could talk about this for another hour.
Easily.
Let's do a little game, shall we?
Yeah, hit me.
So let's go around the houses. Who are you predicting is going to be the next Atlanta Falcons head coach?
Can I do 2 a variation?
No.
All right. I think because of what Arthur is like, I think we get Bill.
Okay.
I think we get Bill. That is not my pick. That's
no. I've asked you. Yeah. I've asked you to make a guess. That's cool. Yeah. Carl.
I think we get Ben.
Okay.
From Lions. I do think we'll go for him.
Yeah. Go on, Liam.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ben Johnson. I think is who we're going to get.
Yeah.
Next in the chat.
I think so.
Go on, Mark.
Feel free. Anybody else watching, chuck in your predictions. We'd love to read them. I see my head.
No. If but some maybes.
What I was about to say was, my head probably tells me to agree with you, Danny.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to go a little bit left field
Oh.
And I am gonna go with because I think it will. It'll end up being somebody that we are like almost kind of counting out. What was the name of the guy? It was you had your list. You still got your list?
I will get my list right back up now.
You mentioned the Bengals OC.
I did. Brian Callahan. Callahan?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Ryan Callahan. Right. I'm gonna take a little punt on that. I think like it has to be offensive. And I think Ben Johnson's going to have a lot of suitors, and I'd like to hope that it would be us that is suited to him because he's definitely my top choice. But I also know that Mr. Blank likes to consistently kick us in the gooch, so I'm going to say I'm going to say hopefully sees sense, says no to Bill, but I'm going to go for the Bengals OC.
Okay. Brian Callahan it is. That's a nice round set. Set for us. I have got a few bits of any other business just around the NFL to box us off. I think we're satisfied that we've covered. We can't cover the draft too much just yet until we know who comes in. So first things first, the teams coming over the teams for all of the games abroad were announced today. So
I'm not watching the Jaguars again. I can't.
No, I'm sick of it.
Like every year.
Sick of it. But yeah, we've got, of course, the Jags, Vikings, and the Bears coming over, which means, statistically speaking, we will probably have a weekend in London without being stressed, which is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And I won't have to go to Tash.
Yeah, you won't. No, you won't. Well, it depends who we get in. So they're the London games. The Munich game is the Panthers, which we did do a little dive into earlier. So my instant assumption was that the deal that the Falcons have signed with NFL Germany would indicate that we'd be the team over there. But then basing it on when you play the teams, it's looking like it's unlikely. But I do find that bizarre to sign a deal with a team and then not send them to that country. I do think it's a little bit.
I know. I think it's just unlikely that they'd have 3 international games in 4 years, 5 years. It's
a lot, isn't it? Yeah.
Packers only came over here for the first time, like a little while ago. Like, do you know what I mean? I'd be really surprised. And listen, if it did, I would, absolutely move hella high water to get over to Germany. But I just can't say it. I can't say it. I think it's. But I did look at that Panthers sort of schedule. Now, if you think about it, Saints were over here. Saints played the Vikings 2 years ago, I think, if I remember rightly. And I'm pretty sure, didn't the Bucks already play in Germany?
They played the Chiefs, didn't they, last year?
Yeah. So actually, it's probably not likely to be a division game.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, doesn't seem logical, does it? You never know. We could be the long shot. The game in Sao Paulo has not been decided. The team over there has not been decided yet. So we could be at Corinthians Arena. That'd be an away day, wouldn't it?
We all would not last 5 minutes.
We would not. Nope.
with our disco ball complexions. That's and like I was saying this to somebody because one of the guys mentioned it to me earlier on, was that would you go over there? And I was like, to be fair, I'd rather, if I was going to spend that kind of money, I'd rather just spend the money and actually get back to Atlanta. So
I would agree.
It's quite some journey, that, isn't it? It's quite some journey.
Yeah,
arranging.
But Bears have got a big fan base over here. Though, the Bears were amazing in the 80s. I know a lot of Bears fans. So I think not that I'm a big fan of going to Tottenham games, which is why I always end up watching watching the Jags. But I think if I was to choose a game, I would probably go and see the Bears. I'd like to see Justin Fields.
Yeah, me and Cal said the same. We'd like to see a team that we've not had the opportunity to see yet. We've done neutral games before, but it'd be good to add someone else into the mix. So that was my first little bit. Has anybody else got any more? I've got some more. I'm just going to keep going if not.
Oh, yeah, keep going. Go for
it. Next up, where are we at? Little shout out to Chris Lindstrom and Jesse Bates because they'll have a nice little Pro Bowl coming up soon.
Yeah.
First team All Pros as well, might I add. So that's lovely for both of them.
Really should be. Yeah, absolutely.
Very unlike the Falcons. I should have done this in the segment really, but I'm coming back because it's only off socials. It's not a news article. Matt Ryan as the quarterback coach, depending on who comes in. Anyone? It's just a social one. It's not a reliable outlet. It's just a few people nattering.
Listen, like I get when people look at ex-players and go, they would, ignite the fan base or whatever, right?
Yeah.
D'Amico Ryans is a great example. D'Amico Ryans used to play for Houston. When he retired, he went and cut his teeth as a coach. And then he worked his way up the coaching ladder, got a coordinator job. It's absolutely and that is how you become a good coach. You go and get experience.
Yeah.
All Matt Ryan's done since he's finished is go on TV. And there's no disrespect to Matt. I love the man. I always will love the man. But he hasn't gone and done any coaching. And yes, he was a great quarterback. But it's like go get Tony Gonzalez as a tight ends coach. It's like, well, no, because all Tony's done since he retired is go on TV and talk about football. So, there's in the NFL, you kind of go, there's levels to this. You could even use the example of Deion Sanders, right? At least he went and took over a really kind of what I would class personally as a low-level college program, and he's done okay. He's done okay, right? He has done okay. Stop telling me Coach Prime needs to get an interview. He doesn't.
That's a Facebook thing. I barely see that.
Last year,
begging for him,
and finished 4-8.
Yeah,
and that's with his son at quarterback. Like people have got to take their Falcon-shaped glasses off for 1 second. Like it's it would be a disaster.
Coaching experience.
Sure.
That's all you need. That's what I've heard.
Right. Okay. So it's I don't know what dark corner of the socials that's on, but it needs to stop. And people need to grow up.
Where's the account gone? I'll shout them out. I don't even think they follow us. It came up on the suggested bit. So in fact,
if I find it, I'll tell you.
We don't even know we exist. Another little one just about Falcons getting a new weight room, locker room, cafeteria, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, they're rocking up Flowery Branch, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a sign of commitment to the cause because that must have cost a few bob. That must have cost a few dollars. So
you kind of, we said it earlier on, didn't we? Right? People go, "Oh, Arthur Blank, he's getting old and he still cares about this team. I'm not saying he makes the best decisions, but he's still putting his money where his mouth is. They're and we all knew one of the big things about Flowery Branch is it didn't have a great facility. Well, now we're getting one.
Now we get no, exactly. Positives for a new coach to come into.
Yeah.
And my final notable one isn't even Falcons related. I just think it's a very Falcon statistic.
Cool.
So the Jets' defensive ranking in 2023 season was first, and their offensive ranking in 2023 was 32nd, which explains a lot about their season, of course.
Yeah.
I just think that's insane. How can that even happen? Imagine standing on the training field and watching each other and thinking, wow, they're really good. And then they're like, wow, they are terrible. They're really struggling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought that was more of
and Aaron Rodgers come back next year is not going to change that.
Oh, no, not at all.
Where do you think he would be if Rodgers was in charge this year? It was.
But I think it would be better. I think it'd be much better. Not
in that
and when I say,
division.
I think they would be like in terms of offense. I think they would be more towards the middle of the league. They wouldn't be like right.
Maybe
wouldn't be right up there.
5 more games, right? Maybe, but again, not like nowhere near the Dolphins or the Bills.
Well, I was going to say they finished 7-10, and the Bills and Dolphins were both 11-6.
Really?
So, yeah. So they would have needed 4 more to even be competitive, to even have a chance, and then it would have gone down to all of the breakdowns.
Does everyone enjoy the way the Eagles have lost? What is it? 5 out of the last 6. That's good to see. And I still don't know where my hatred for the Eagles comes from, but I'm scared of it.
Brutal.
I feel like because I see a lot of the videos when they play at home and any away fans are there, they treat them like shit. And I'm not saying like
Philly's rough. I mean, I
that's what you're always saying. It's like I feel I've seen other stadiums where you got away fans and you don't get like they're getting like cups thrown at them, and it just seems a bit like hostile all the time. So I'm like, oh fuck it, they can.
I can't. But
I'm rooting for the Ravens.
As
win it.
As Brits, is that not kind of the most British reaction you could possibly get? Like if you go to an away football game, all you do is
but I mean, like from what I've seen from other over here, like totally, like fucking hell, you wouldn't even have away fans near.
The Eagles have been poor this year by their standards. Every Eagles fan I know is like, I just don't understand what's going on and how we're so different to last year.
Yeah. It's crazy. That's all of my news, boys. Other than Bijan got the rookie rushing yards top spot, obviously. I mean, we knew that anyway, but just a nice little shout out to him. Shame he didn't quite hit that 1K. It would have been quite an achievement in a scheme that didn't always look after him like it should have done. But hopefully, whoever comes in next season, boom. Love that.
Right. One last word. Super Bowl winners.
Still Ravens.
Yeah, same.
I'm going to be controversial.
Go on.
The Ravens beat the 49ers bad in that regular season. Playoff football is different.
Yeah, true.
And I think I've got a sneaky feeling is going to be it's obviously, of course, if the Niners make the Super Bowl, I'm going to go Niners.
Okay, fair enough. Liam.
Yeah, I really don't know who could do it. I mean, I'm gonna say I think that my head says the Ravens. I think.
Yeah.
And my heart says the Lions.
Oh my God. Fair enough.
That would be like that would be mint.
Yeah,
like,
they're just gonna let Jared Goff sling it and see what happens.
And I mean that in the absolute nicest possible way. Oh, before we go, I've got a story for you all. I think I might have sent the screenshot in the group chat. So over the Christmas, not a lot doing, a couple of late nights here and there, watching loads of football. It was great. So I can't remember which particular night it was. Cowboys Lions, right?
Yeah.
So I thought I'll have myself a little bet builder, right? Just a daft fiver, right? Lovely job. So I think I had like Montgomery and CeeDee Lamb to score touchdowns. I had Montgomery over 55 yards. I had CeeDee Lamb over 120 yards.
Yeah.
I can't remember what some of the other things I put on it, but basically absolutely everything coming in, right? This was to return me 220 quid off a fiver, right?
Yeah.
I was living the dream. 2 minutes to go. It was almost like watching the Falcons, guys, right? 2 minutes to go. Cowboys are in complete control. A touchdown up. They're about on their 40-yard line. 2nd and 10. Dak Prescott decides, and this, bear in mind, this is at Dallas, and they'd not lost at home all season, right? 2nd and 10, clock running. Dak decides to absolutely air the ball into outer space off the sideline, stops the clock, right? If you just hit a 4-yard pass, clock still runs. I wouldn't even mind. It wasn't like he overthrew the receiver. He just
rocketed it.
I've got no idea what he's doing. But anyway, stop the clock. Couldn't convert the third, punted. Now, one of the big things in the bet was I had Goff, because I trusted Dallas's defense at home, throwing, and I'll never forget this number, under 265. No, 200.
I'll never forget this number.
255 yards. No, it was. Yeah. It was 263.
Yeah.
Right. 263 yards. And I thought, he's not going to do it. Cool. Well, of course, Dak managed to stop the clock. So by the time they punted, Goff had nearly 2 full minutes to drive that ball down the field. And would you like to know how he drove the ball down the field? By repeatedly airing the ball to Armand. I lost that bet because that was when the big furore happened about they said that somebody had hadn't reported in or whatever, right? All that fuckery. And Goff drives down the field. I lost that bet by 6 Jared Goff throwing yards.
Oh, sickening. I think
one of the many other reasons that Dan Quinn, if I ever seen him, I would slap him across his big bald head with a wedge.
I think you tweet Prescott and say, you owe me money.
If I was to tweet Prescott, my Twitter account wouldn't be live anymore. Especially after I stayed up until 4:30 in the morning to hopefully see if my bet played out.
That's a nightmare.
Or Goff. Maybe got. I saw a little note go to him just before that drive.
Oh, mate, I was
got you on. Sling it. Sling it, lad.
Yeah. There's a guy in England who's really a donkey on the edge right now. You need to go and bring it his night.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Anyway, sorry, total segue, but I had to share that with you guys because I was steaming. I was steaming, man.
That is a lovely finisher. Chaps, it has been a pleasure. It's good to all be back together after a few weeks of absence. Weirdly enough, this might again be our last show for a little while. Everybody that's a regular knows that we try to always do a Monday, with the exception of Tuesday sometimes. And I'm telling you this on a Thursday, which shows that it's not always the highest. But this one was logical because we knew more had come out about the coaching, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
As opposed to having a show. Yeah. As opposed to having a show every week now, we're going to be a little bit more periodic, just whilst there's not really loads going on. We all love ball, but frankly, we don't really want to talk about other teams in the playoffs all the time. So we might dip in after each section or something like that and have a quick chat. But
time to talk about the draft, baby.
And there we go. Yeah. So when we get a new coach, when we know more about what's going on, when there's draft talk, when there's free agency talk, when there's all that shuffle, we'll keep jumping on. We'll make sure it's all over all of our socials so everybody's got a few days' notice. We will try and keep to our normal time slots, but of course, if there's something really juicy and breaking, we will try and do it on the day of or the day after, if possible. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for your patience with us this week. We have been a nightmare. Chaps, anything before we sign off?
Just one thing for any UK listeners that are out there. So if you're a regular watcher of the show, you might have heard me say before that I play the game over here also. I would recommend that everyone at some point, even if you've never played before or you've never played rugby before or anything like that, if you are interested in getting to know more about the sport, pre-season training for all of the Brit Ball teams starts in January. So if you don't know if you've got a local team, go and find out. There are loads of them. Even if it's just a case of you could go and watch your local team, go and support them. It's great to watch live, even if you're not too keen on the rough and tumble. That's also cool. Like, go down and support your local team. It's grassroots. It's all self-funded. All the players are paid to play, paid to play the sport. So I just wanted to make a little plug to say, if it's something that you haven't considered before, get online, find out who your local team is, and give it a bash, because it's so rewarding and one of the best things I've ever done. My knees don't agree with me, but it's
brain does. The brain does, though.
Well, I mean, I ended up with a concussion after my first training session. So, but luckily, boys, where there's no sense, there's no feeling. So don't worry.
Exactly. Just to echo and highlight what Mark's just said a little bit, you will notice that he's wearing a very nice little piece of merch of his team, the Tridents. Mark, please, can you show what number you are, please, just for the shits and giggles?
Surely the guys have seen it, but I'm an O-lineman, baby. And if you're going to offer me such a number, all due respect, I mean, I can't believe nobody else took it. So
it'd be my first call immediately. I'd have it as a wide receiver, never mind an O-liner. I'll take it for anything I can get.
I know as a wide receiver. You've got to be in the big boys. These 60 to 70 jerseys only come in extra large, bro.
Bulking season, it's all right.
Yes, sir.
Cal, Liam, anything of note? Any goodbyes? Any send-offs? Any well wishes?
Thanks for sticking for us for another season.
Oh.
You didn't know what I didn't know what word was going to come out.
I know. Probably going to use another word, but it's another season and it's a new start again, and hopefully we'll see a winning season next year.
What's it, Cal, season 6?
Let's hope for a season that we get the Falcons winning record and we don't have to watch any football with pictures of Taylor Swift in it next season. That'd be nice as well.
I don't think either of those are likely.
Pathetic. Liam, anything from you?
No, I mean, just looking forward to next season now already. I know I said that at the start of this one, but I mean it this time.
What time's coming? It's coming.
Next season, the one.
We'll be hosting a Super Bowl watch party before we know it. Don't worry about it, boys.
We'll be here to talk about the draft in due course, and we'll be here to go through 35 different choices for the first round pick and change our mind every single week.
Yes, sir. Actually, to be fair, I just fall in love with somebody and then don't change my mind no matter what. So, and I was right last year. To be fair,
you're doing your credit, On that note, actually, that's what you two can start prepping now. You can get your mock drafts going. Everyone that watches regularly knows that Cal and I aren't quite as into college football as the other two chaps. So we take a little bit of a back seat for draft talk and just talk about the top 10 prospects. And after that, we let these lot go into round 527, which does not exist, yet we still get there somehow.
Yeah. But go watch my 8-round Alabama mocks if you want. I could do one of them live.
We'll you can run it live. We can have us up, and then we can snap the screen and have.
What you do is you go on the mock draft simulator and you filter to Alabama and pick from there.
There we go. No bias at all.
Yeah,
crazy. And on that note, we will wrap it up. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. It has been one hell of a season. So much hope, so much success at one point. We were on the cusp of what we thought was going to be a brilliant season. And yet again, we found it. But we're all better for it. So stick with us. We'll keep you all posted when we're going live again. hopefully we'll have some head coach news soon. Do some draft shows. Do some whatever we can come up with. Do some quiz shows. Who knows?
Yeah, good idea.
This will be available on YouTube as soon as we finish, so you can watch it back if you've joined late. And we will have the podcast up first thing tomorrow morning. So that'll be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and go on, Mark, say your line.
Wherever you get your podcast.
But for this season, I suppose this is officially the last show, and anyone from here out is a 2024 season show.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a good night, and we will catch you all soon. See you later.
See you later.